welcome to my channel. My name is Qureshi, and this is a session on your checkpoint firewalls. And in this lesson, we will be talking about the feature of checkpoint that is known as the cluster Excel. Right. In this lesson, we will be talking about what cluster Excel is and the types of cluster Excel that we have on offer, and then the cluster requirements, and finally the synchronization process. And then I'll lab it up in my own lab that I'm running on the VMware workstation, and where I'll be demonstrating this to you and how to set up it, right? So without wasting much time, let's see what is cluster Excel. So redundancy is great, right? So this is a way of redundancy. For example, if one of your firewall fails, okay, so for example, you have a firewall here, firewall 1, and then you have your LAN switch, and then you have a couple of devices, right? So these are the devices, and let's say this is the switch, and this is these devices are connected to the switch, and then it goes to the firewall, and then firewall goes to the internet, right? So yeah, like this, it goes to the internet. Everything's fine, right? This is the switch, and everybody's happy. And now what happens is this firewall goes bad and fails. So what happened now is that your whole network went down because there is a single point of failure here. So in order to overcome this, what we do is we take dual firewalls like this. So this is another box, another firewall, and we connect it like this, and this has connected to the internet. So you have different models, right? So that's why I'll be talking about. So let's talk about the active passive, active and passive, okay, or you can say active standby, whatever. So in this model, what happens is your firewall, one of the firewalls is active, right? He's the active forwarder, and it sends the data, traffic on this firewall. So, and once this firewall fails, this firewall becomes active, and this becomes passive. Okay, and there is no drop in the packets. Okay, your LAN guys, they don't know what happened, right? So that is called transparency. So that should be there. You have a default gateway, and you don't need it should not be like you go to every client on the LAN and change the default gateway to this firewall, right? Because the primary failed. Now you want the secondary to become active, but then you have to change the gateways. No, it should not be like that. So that is what transparency means, and that is taken care in your checkpoint. And then you have fault tolerance. Fault tolerance is again the same. A little bit of difference is that if you have 100% of traffic taken care by this firewall, once this firewall fails, the second firewall should take the 100% of traffic. It should not be like it will be overloaded or overwhelmed by the amount of traffic that is generated by your LAN. No, so that should not make any issues on the firewall. So that is your whole story of the cluster Excel concept, right? So next slide would be our cluster Excel. So in cluster Excel, we actually have two ways to deploy cluster Excel. One is called the HA, high availability mode. In this mode, we have two models. Two models, but then again, both are like active and standby, active passive. Okay, so the primary firewall or the secondary firewall, whatever. One of them is active, and the other one is on standby, waiting for the other to fail, and then he can join. Okay, and then the next one is your load sharing or load balancing. In this also we have two types. You have multicast and you have unicast. So I'll be explaining you all of this Okay, so let's take the board here and let me explain you the concept. Okay, so let's go with the HA. Okay, HA has two modes. Okay, let me write down. We are talking about HA. Okay, it has the old, or you can say legacy mode. In this, what happens is you have one firewall, you have two firewall, right? You have a pair of firewalls here. Okay, if any of you knows the concept of high availability in this ASA, Cisco ASA, it's similar like this. So you again have this external interface, both of them going to a router or say the cloud, whatever, and then internal interfaces going to a switch again, right? So like that, and then you have the internal your devices, right? And then they have so this is your primary, this is your secondary, right? So just remember this is primary and secondary. So now you have some IP address range, right? So let's go here. Then you have the CCP. This is called the Checkpoint Control Protocol. This is the sync link. Okay, sync link, and the protocol that is used is called CCP. We'll be talking about this in the same video, but yeah, later on. So what happens is say for example, this is my 176 network. 170. Okay, not 176. Let me erase this. So this is my 172.16.1.0 network. Okay, /24. So this is my 110.110. Okay, this side, and this is my .111. So what I do is on my end devices, right, I should have a gateway, right, and that should be, I mean, static. In a sense, I should not. I mean, there should not be any requirement that I go on and change the default gateway again and again. No, right? So in this case, the default gateway would be 110. Okay, and this is your active firewall, and this is your standby, right? So you can define this by, I mean, if you want to change this behavior, you can use the value called priority. So higher the priority, that would be the preferred one as the active. Okay, so you have to increase the priority, and that firewall will become the active firewall. Anyway, so right now you have 110, and this primary firewall will be active and it will be forwarding. So now what will happen, say this firewall fails and this firewall becomes okay, now this is secondary, right, but it is not standby now, it is now active. And when this takes over as active, it will also take the IP address of the active, and the active will be 111, and this will become now standby. Okay, this is called your old mode. Okay, so you have two IPs on the firewall, and the active this firewall will have the IP address of the active firewall, right, like that. So that is your old mode. And also one more thing in the old mode is preemption, right? Preemption means, so what happens is, say this primary firewall failed, now it's in standby mode. What if it comes back again online? So that is called preemption. If your preemption is enabled, this primary firewall will again become active, and then the other side will become standby. So that is preemption. and if preemption is not enabled, so this will remain as standby only until the secondary fails, the active one, right, that fails. So that is the concept of your old HA, legacy HA. And now we have the new model, right, new HA model, or you can also say the VRRP model. So you know that in Cisco we have Cisco, or what, it's not just Cisco, it's open standard VRRP, right? So that is the same concept. So you now here again you will have your two firewalls, firewall 1, firewall 2, okay, and then you would have some connections on the between them, right, and this connection is going to the internet, and the below one is going to your switch. Okay, then again you will have some devices here connected to that switch, right? Like that. This is your cloud. Fine. Now what will happen is you have this as 110. Fine. You have this as 111. Now in this case you will have a virtual IP VIP. So say this is 120. So virtual IP is 120 and the gateway on the devices will be 120 only. Okay, so all the traffic will be sent to this virtual IP here 120, and then whoever is active here, okay, this traffic will be taken care by the active one, like that. And also you can have a VIP on the on this side, on the WAN side, like that. You can have, say, this is again in some another network, this is say 20, this is say 21, and you have a VIP of 22.22, like that. So here the the requirement is you should have the IP address, right? In the earlier model, in the old model, you needed only 2 IP addresses, but here you need an extra IP address. So /30 would not do, you need minimum /29. Okay, so that is your new model, new model, which is the VRRP. Okay, and yeah, also you have the preemption option here. You can do the same thing. Active fails, standby becomes active, and when the standby, right, when the old active comes back again, it will take over as active, right? That is preemption, and that is also there, and you can set it. And also you have the priority option, so that is there. That is the concept of your HA. Wait a second. So where are we? Okay, we were here. Now you have the load balancing, the load sharing cluster that we say. So in cluster, what happens is, let me take my whiteboard, or let's keep it like this, and let me take my notepad. Okay, I find it easier like that. So in your cluster, right, this is load sharing. This means both the firewalls will be in active mode. So you have the concept, you have one firewall, you have two firewalls, okay, and then again you have the LAN, right? This is the switch, this is the WAN. Okay, let me just design this again like this, and then you have the links to this, and you have the sync link, right? So in this, what happens is you have both the firewalls as active sorry, active. So the first mode we'll be talking about is multicast. Okay, multicast, right? So this is the multicast mode. So in this, what happens is you again have the VIP, right? Virtual IP is there still, but what happens is with virtual IP, so in this cluster mode you can have, up to 5 members. Okay, so in this mode, what happens is when you have a traffic TCP or UDP based, whatever, it will be forwarded to all the cluster members. Okay, and one of the cluster member, through the CCP link, right, the sync link, and that is controlled on the CCP protocol, they will be agreeing with each other that who is going to take care of this request. Okay, they will agree to each other, and one of the firewall will be taking care of that request. So that is like that. If they have 5 members, all of them will agree with that guy and with that firewall, and it will forward. So like that you will do load balancing. This is called your 50-50. Okay, so if you have 4, then 25, 25, 25, right? Like that. So this is your load balancing that you say, because you have equal balancing, right? Because you have an equal amount of traffic passing through both the firewalls. So that is the multicast mode. Now you have the unicast mode. Unicast. Now you people would think, why would you use multicast, and why is there unicast? I mean, there is a big reason why. Because maybe the switches are not supporting multicast, or not all network would support multicast, right? So in that case you will be going with unicast. So in unicast, it's kind of load sharing. Okay, load sharing. Here also you have the concept of preemption and all those things, priority and everything. What do you think? I think I just said something that I should not say. So that active standby concept is not there. So obviously you don't have the priority concept, right? So pardon me for that. So both of them are active, right? And now this is the load sharing method. I'll just undo something. Okay, load sharing is going on. No, I'll not. I need load sharing here. And what we will do is, so I need the VIP here. But then what happens is, this is not 50-50. Okay. Now you are doing 30 and 70. 30 and 70%. So this guy who is the 30, you can manually define that. This is called the pivot firewall. And this pivot firewall is actually responsible for the decisions that who is going to take care of the request. So in the earlier case, you used to, I mean, the packet that you received on VIP, virtual IP, was sent to both the members, right? Or how many members you have, it will be sent to all the members. But in this case, in the unicast case, the VIP would forward this request to the pivot firewall, this firewall, and this guy is the decision maker, and he'll decide. Mostly he'll decide to send it to the other firewall, the 70% guy, because this 70% of firewall will be handling most of the traffic, and all the decision will be done by the pivot firewall, but he will be also handling some of the requests, 30% of it, right? So it's not like that only the other firewall will be doing that. In case the pivot fails, obviously the second one will become pivot, and he'll be doing the decision, because he's the only guy who will be sending all the traffic. So he'll be responsible to send the 100% of the traffic, right? So that is the concept of your unicast. Okay, hope you understood, right? You have the concept of VIP here also, multicast, unicast, both. But in both the cases you have active firewalls, active, both of them, right? And this concept of, decision making, while it was in the case of multicast as well as in unicast, wherein in unicast you call that firewall as the pivot firewall. This whole thing is called the sticky decision function, right? SDF. Okay, and in unicast the pivot firewall will do the SDF, sticky decision function, right? Okay, so that was the concept of your multicast and unicast load sharing concept, or you can say clustering. Next comes your concept of your sync, right? So you have this let me go here and let me go here and again draw the firewalls. So now you have 2 firewalls, right? And then you have the sync link, this one, sync link. So you have this sync link, and all the configuration is sent through this sync link to the firewalls, each other. Okay. So the active sends to the passive or the active both, how they are managing the connections. So the connection table, the configuration, everything is sent through this. So this is for the control plane, right? So I mean, there are two types of sync. One is called the what do you say? Let me just take out this and you will see this. Okay. So one is called the full sync and the other one is called the delta sync. And you can see that, okay, let me take this. Okay, let's talk about the full sync. So in full sync what happens? So let's talk about the full sync. Full sync will be in the case wherein, okay, this is full guys, this is full, FULL, full. So full sync will be in the case when when one of these firewalls goes down and this comes back online again. So you have to send all the synchronization to the other side, right? I mean, you have to receive it. So that is called the full sync. In that case, the full sync will be done on a secured and encrypted line, that is your TCP, and port will be 256. Okay, full sync will be done on port 256 encrypted. And then you have another one that is called the delta. So in that case, in delta, what will happen is delta sync. Okay, so this sync packets are sent every 0.1 second. Okay, so this is like when both the firewalls are online, they are sending anything. I mean, I received a new packet, I will send I create a connection table, I'll send the details to this side. I received a new packet, I create a connection, I'll send the details to that. I mean, some configuration, send it to the other side, right? So that is done every 0.1 second, and that is called your delta sync. Okay, and this is done on TCP 8116 port. So that is the concept of your sync and all the concepts. Okay, let me just take hold of this. And okay, so that was the concept of your synchronization, cluster Excel, and the types of cluster Excel you have, whether it be the HA mode, the new mode, old mode, VRRP mode is the new mode, and then you have the load sharing, multicast, unicast, right? So that was the concept of the HA or cluster in Checkpoint, right? So yeah, let's go to the lab and we will see how we are going to configure this on the firewalls.